Welcome back, guys. In the last video that we had, which was a while ago, I do apologize for taking time to come back. I've been very busy. But in the last video that we had, we tackled basic front end on Winter CMS. In this video, however, we're going to be going a bit more into the front end, but instead of tackling like basic HTML and CSS, just categorizing things, because this is not a HTML and CSS course. This is a Winter CMS course, so I would assume that you have some HTML and CSS knowledge. We're going to tackle components, which is the backbone of Winter CMS. And what you'll see is that when we use components, they're very, they make things very easy to reuse. They make things very simple to organize, and they have their own, they have their own kind of pipeline in terms of how they are set up and how they are run, which is a very simple way of doing it. And I'm going to show you in this video how we're going to get that to work. So the first thing we'll do is we will go to the Winter CMS documentation. And what you need to do is go into, when it comes to Winter CMS, you have to go into the docs, look for a particular thing that might fancy you. So I'm going to come in here and then I'm going to look for components. So here, when you are on the Winter CMS site and you go to the docs, you will find situations where you'll have places that explains components for you. But you don't have to go here to understand components, because I'm going to take you through step by step. But if you want a deeper understanding, you can come to the website and look up components. So it's very similar to React components in terms of storing data and inputting data and stuff like that. But it's simplified to the form of you can use this in your PHP knowledge, with your PHP knowledge. So, for example, remember this page? We created this page and we said learning, I'm learning, yay. And we didn't do much else. So what I want to do in this page is I want to split I'm learning, yay, with this button here. And I want this button to do something nice, like maybe send a message or spread a message or actually even change the content here. So to begin with that, I need to create a component. And the way components are structured in Winter CMS is you have to have a plugin. In that plugin, you have to have a function or feature. Basically, it has to be the name of the author here. And then it has to be, what are you working with? So in this bit, I'm going to show you how to create a plugin. Now you can use Visual Studio Code, you can use PHP Storm, you can use Sublime Text. You're not limited. So in this case, I'm going to use PHP Storm. And what I've done with PHP Storm is I've attached it to the Git terminal. So I can use Git commands in the terminal using PHP Storm. I'll make a video on PHP Storm and how to use it properly in the future. But for now, you can use any terminal that you wish, as long as it's in the same folder that you're working with, and the folder structure is like this. So now I need to create not only a component, but I need to create a plugin that holds that component, and I'll be the author of that plugin. So first, I'm going to create a plugin. I'm going to say PHP Artisan create. Now, you can create the plugin if you want to, which is the long way, or you can create a component which will create a plugin folder for you. So I just want to create the component because I just want to work with the component. So I'm going to say component. Just make sure I spell it right. And then I'm going to say my name. I'm the author. I'm going to be working with something, so I'll probably just say front end, and then I'll name the component a specific name, which is, let's say I want to work with this part here. So I'll name the component the header section, or header, basically. So I'll name it header. And then I will press enter. What will happen is, if you create the component, it'll say component creation successful. And then when you come to the plugin section, you'll see my author name, and then you see front end, which is the function that I've created. And then in there, you will see it has a space for components. And in the component section, we have a header section. So once you go into the header section, you're exposed to this part here, which is a default HTML, so that you can see that this header section has been created. So we've done this part, but again, like I said, we need to create a plugin, because if we do not create a plugin, then we cannot use this component in our front end. So I did the component way first, then I'll create the plugin. You can do the plugin way first, and then you create the component. It's very flexible like that. So I'm going to create the plugin. I still have this command, and then I'm going to come here, change this to, I'll remove that front, and I'll remove this, and then I will say plugin. And then I will do this. What happens is that in this front end, it creates a plugin for me. And then it creates a lang and an update. This is mostly for version control. And when you're doing migrations, this is what you use to do your migrations. So I don't have to do migrations yet. We're not focusing on that. That'll be in the database section later on. Right now, I'm focusing on components. So for now, this and this is our main focus. So I have this component here. I'm not going to change anything yet. And it has a header PHP, which has default properties inside. And you will see how we can use this to our advantage. All right. Let me start off by making sure that we show the component in this part here. So instead of saying, I'm learning yay and all that stuff, I want to show the components information at this part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back. I need to register the component in a plugin, which I've just created here. So now that I've got the plugin and now that I've created the component, what I need to do is I need to come to where it says register component. And in that register component, I need to make sure that my stuff is registered. As you can see, in register component, we have a return, and in that return, it has a component structure, which is this: for I, front end, components, my component, that's the name that will be used throughout the entire front end side. But my component doesn't exist. What I do have is front end. So in this case, I have to replace this with front end. And whatever name I choose, I can just, I can choose any name that I want. So I'll just say CM front end, just to keep it neat. And then to register this component, I need to remove this line to activate it. Now the component has been registered, but we can't use it yet. The next step is to see if anything has been broken with our creation of the plugin. So I need to go to the back end, where most of the stuff we're doing will be. To go to the back end, I just need to create a new page, copy this, and then specify back end. All right, we can see that nothing has been broken in the backend with our creation of a plugin. Sometimes you have to make sure that when you're creating stuff using the PHP artisan, they match with the version of PHP that you're using, especially when you're doing PHP 8. There could be situations where some stuff in PHP 8 doesn't work because the Laravel or the October or the Winter CMS version that you have only supports a lower version of PHP, which is PHP 7.4 or 7.3, something like that. So you have to make sure that when you're using the Winter CMS, that your PHP is compatible with this Winter CMS version. So I can see that nothing has been broken. We're good to go. And then the next thing is, now that I've registered this this component, I can technically use it in the front end now. But for me to do that, I need to come into themes. If you remember, we were using Space Bootstrap. Go into assets, go into pages, and I have pages here. I have an index page, and in this index page, we have some code here. So as you can see here, this code is actually markup code. This is done on the component side in October CMS. This code here after is our HTML and CSS. This is what we use to specify how this page should work. And this is what we use to visualize the page. Now, I want to use the component that we just created. In order for me to do that, I need to actually specify it here. Now, it was CM front end. So you do it like that. That's how you specify it. It has to be the same name as the one that you registered here. It cannot be two different names. Otherwise, it won't work. So let's go back to index and make sure that this is our right name and we're good to go. And then the next thing is we want to show it here. We don't want to show what I'm showing here. We want to remove all of this, and in its place, we show what we created, and what we need to show is this. This is the default markup for a component header. You can delete this file if you want to. We need to show this because this is coming from plugins for Rive, front end, components, and header. That's the markup. That's the markup for the component. We need to show that. So, first things first, I need to remove all of this here, which I will. Save it, refresh the page, and make sure that it's all gone. But again, we've come to an issue. Component class not found. And the class that wasn't found was Forai front-end components front-end. Check the component plugin. So what I did incorrectly was I didn't actually call the component. I called the function there that made the component, which is wrong. I need to come here. I need to change it to header because that's the component name. And in the same part here, header as well, CM header. And then where I called it, I need to change that as well. Now, when we refresh the page, everything should work smoothly. And we see that our stuff is gone. But we want the component here. Very easy. Where I remove the stuff which was here, I can call the component by specifying it like this. Just make sure I got the spelling right. When I refresh, as you can see, the component has been called. So what happens if I actually remove this part here, which is how the page should work in Winter CMS? If I remove this, it won't know what component I'm using here. It'll be confused because what it'll be looking for is the component structure or the component name here in this section before this. If it doesn't find it, well, it can't use the component. So we need that there. So now that we got that here, we need to go back here. And now we can use the default markup of that component, which is this. But we are not doing this just to display this information here. That's nice, but we want functionality here. And that's what we will tackle in the next video coming up. We will continue with components. We'll make some buttons, and then we'll have them do stuff. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.